and it doesn't discriminate. And gambling addiction is the same. You know, if somebody would have asked me at age 25, 26, you know, if I would have been entangled in a gambling addiction, I'd have laughed at them. Before with gambling.
No,
addiction.
You are first. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
we branched out to try to touch on some different areas. We'll actually have our first guests coming up, I believe next week for pornography, and so
wow,
yeah. So we've tried to find those different areas that people might see as fringe. Yet once you dig into addiction for anyone, there's so many commonalities, and we are not unique, as you know.
No, we're not, and it doesn't discriminate. And gambling addiction is the same. You know, if somebody would have asked me at age 25, 26, you know, if I would have been entangled in a gambling addiction, I'd have laughed at them. But, you know, it's very devastating, and not just financially. I'm dually diagnosed, so I also maintain recovery. I just celebrated 14 years from the vet. And, you know, it's not just your financial inventory and, you know, your personal inventory. I don't think people realize how prevalent gambling is in our everyday life. Mm-hmm. You know, and I guess we should start by saying, you know, what constitutes gambling? Well, anything that's a risk or chance that you can't know the outcome is gambling. Sure. And so, you know, it's a flip of a coin, a turn of a card, and that. And so, you know, it's destroying communities. The kind of the newest thing, really, and this is where I became addicted. I guess I should kind of back up. A lot of it it got out of control when my mom passed away. But mine was from the Oregon lottery where I was living at the time. Sure. You know, pretty much every state has a sponsored lottery, right. And that, and they all have different, you know, products and whatever. So in the early, around 90 or so, they introduced Keno, you know, and that, and then right around 92, they started doing the video poker machines. Oh. And then all of this, yeah, and it was in all the bars, restaurants that have lounges, you know, all that. And that's what I got addicted to, because then later they added slot style games to those video poker machines. Right. So, you know, the access to you know, having it, you know, there's a bar where I lived across the street. I could go over there and gamble. Yeah. I could go up a block and gamble. Then you started getting these lottery retail shops. You know, if you serve food and drink, like restaurants or whatever, they can have up to 6 machines. Huh. And for me, yeah, that's to me, that's predatory gambling. You are preying in communities on the people who really can't afford to lose money. You know, right. Yeah. You know, and that even the advertising, if you look, I mean, a lot of the advertising is in a lot of your lower community, you know, lower income communities. Yeah. So for me, the last few years, and I've been working with Les Burnell of Stop Predatory Gambling, great site to go to, and you can see you put in your state, and then you can even get into your local area and see how gambling is impacting your community. Mm-hmm. You know, look, we have, you know, kids have raffles. High schools have casino nights to raise money. That's gambling. I mean, it may not be for money, but, you know, so it's in our schools, you know, worship, our churches. You know, what do a lot of these churches do at fall festivals and things like that? Bingo
nights and that.
Yeah,
nights,
you know,
yeah.
You go to the grocery store, and, you know, you go to pay for your stuff, and you've got a plexiglass you're looking at with all these scratch tickets, you know, in front of you. You try to go and leave, and there's this big old Megabuck and Powerball, you know, machine and scratch ticket. It's, you know, it's everywhere, and that. So you know, the more access you have, the more people you're going to have become having a problem with it. And that's what happened to me. But mine,
it's funny,
yeah,
Catherine,
mine,
I was watching The Simpsons with my daughter the other night, and you know, the Reverend Lovejoy, and he's doing, "We cannot gamble our life away." Then all of a sudden it flashes to the outside of the church where it says bingo night and Monte Carlo night, you know.
there
So
you go, right?
how do you make
Yeah.
that reference? But
and maybe people who don't have a problem, look, I will state right now, I have no problem. Gambling will never be banned, ever.
oh,
But, you know, the public needs to know the danger. And because you know what, just like you said, Jason, at the end, I have 2 failed suicide attempts from gambling and from being duly diagnosed with, you know, some mental health challenges, and a childhood sexual abuse survivor. That's the other thing I advocate about. Yeah. So for me, I had, you know, for me, it was when the abuse and the trauma started coming back around age 30 is when I started gambling a little bit more. So what happened was I was using it when those feelings came back. I was using it for an escape, to numb out.
That reactivation of the trauma,
right?
No different than an alcoholic, an addict, you know, drug addict, and very relatable.
Yep, it's exactly the same.
Escapism.
I mean, you know, the thing is with gambling, there's no substances required.
All right.
Okay. And so no substance required, no needles, nothing to smoke, no pill to pop, nothing. But you're using the chemicals within your brain and your, you know, your physical body and that, and we get the same high, rush, euphoric feelings as a drug addict or an alcoholic who, you know, is a buzz. What it is, it's twofold. One, we all know we lose control. We walk over that line, and then once you lose control, you can never do that certain whatever it is, drinking, you know, drugs, whatever, gambling. Two, it's and that is the same as any other addiction. Okay, that goes to any other addiction. The second is the cycle. You get sucked in that cycle. You know, and if you don't learn through treatment or however you choose to recover, start your recovery path, you know, the cycle is what keeps you sucked in. You know, you got a whole beginning. There's a whole round thing of, you know, a beginning, the urges, cravings, whatever. And then there you go. You're back out again. But the cycle, if you don't learn the tools to interrupt it, you know, and break it down, you know, that's the second piece of trying to maintain long-term recovery.
Yeah. So,
you know,
so much like with the, you know, in my situation, much with others that we speak with. So, you know, the childhood trauma, which I want to know a little bit more about background of childhood too. But so was it, you know, like with gambling, because it's okay, if I drank, I knew I was going to get drunk. Now, was it the thrill of just the gambling, or is it the thrill of the potential winning and a different reaction if you won as opposed to when you lost? Like, for instance, when you lost, did you feel a sense of shame? Whereas when you won, it was like, see, I got this. This is why I'm doing this. Was there a different reaction for you?
Really, for me, it was the escape. It was the not wanting to feel anymore. And I always thought it was funny because when I ended up in 2002 in a crisis center after my suicide attempt. And when I was in there, the first group meeting I went to with everybody, you know, that's in the program at that time, I thought it was kind of corny that, you know, we started with papers that's, you know, feelings, you know, what it looks like and whatever. And I'm like, really? This is kind of dumb, but you lose all that. You lose feeling. You know, you don't know how to be happy. You don't know how to be sad. You don't know how to. So, but actually, with problem or addicted gambling, what it was for me was truly more just escaping, and you know, anything could bring it on, stress or, you know, a trigger or an urge or whatever. Here's the kicker with gambling addiction. It doesn't matter whether you win or lose, because
Really?
as you know, any other disease like gambling, it invades our thinking, our choices. You know what I mean? It changes and distorts us. So if you lose, you're going to just keep going out there to try and chase your losses. If you win, you already, the disease has made you think that every single time you go gamble, you're going to win. So you really can't, I hate to say the analogy, but you can't win for losing, you know, because it is. That's really the cunning and devastating part of that disease. It doesn't matter, you know, then the behaviors start, the lying, the cheating, you know, I mean, sure, I always bragged about when I won, but here's the thing, you lose value of money. You want to hear something ironic?
Please.
My first job was in the banking industry.
Oh, wow.
Okay. I told people how, you know, how to save money. I did loans. I opened accounts. But when I was stuffing $20 bills in those machines, do you think I knew the value of money at that time? No.
So let me ask you this, Catherine. At what point do you walk away from it? Like, say you're playing poker or the machine, you know, at the bar. When is enough for a gambling addict? When do you leave? When do you walk away?
Yeah, that's
when
you know, with an addict,
yep.
You pass out, or a drunk, you know, for me as an alcoholic,
right.
You pass out. It's like you're done then.
Yeah, when's enough?
And that's the interesting thing, you bring that up, because, you know, with an alcoholic or a drug addict or whatever, you know, you can look at that person and know that they have a problem. Right. Gambling, unless you learn about it and know the warning signs and, you know, some of the things like somebody going to the ATM every 10, 15, 20 minutes, you know, or whatever, back and forth, you know, and it makes you really uncomfortable. When I got into longer term recovery, to where I could, you know, all the casinos that are around here in Arizona, California, everywhere, you know, you got big resort casinos, and they have a conference center and whatever, and you can go to a concert, whatever. Well, a little bit back in the day, you had to walk through the casino to get into the venue. Right. Okay, now you don't have to do that. They have all, you know, you can go in and not have to go through. But I can tell you, I could pick out the people who were problem gamblers or addicted, and it's really an uncomfortable feeling, you know, to know that that person's got a problem. Yeah. When do you know enough is enough?
When do you
is when you're now gambling with your life, not with money anymore. And that's what happened to me twice. If you continue, this disease is a slow progressive disease. So, you know, the risk continues to go up, your bets are higher, and you get to a point that you dig yourself in such a financial hole. I mean, dude, I did it all. I sold stuff, anything of value, because look, the money will run out. Yeah. I don't care how rich you are or how poor you are, the money will run out. It's not about the money. You know, it's about what it does to you. And I had us dug in such a financial black hole that I just never could see my way out of it, you know, and really tell the truth to my husband, everything. I opened credit cards, I forged his name, you know, and when the money runs out, the next thing, you'll steal. Yeah. And, you know, my memoir that's out right now, it's called Addicted to Dimes. My publisher came up with that title. And then the subtitle, Confessions of a Liar and a Cheat, I made that. I wanted that on there because that's what gambling turned me into, a liar and a cheat. And yes, I did steal from somebody too. Yeah. And ended up getting arrested, and granted, you know, never had a criminal record, so I didn't do jail time, but did loads hours of community service and restitution and that. But that's what happens. It will take you there. You know, don't ever say you would never do it, because I never thought I'd do that. not after my background and everything I had worked so hard for, you know. And then along the way, you lose your self-worth, your confidence, your reputation. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror anymore. So the long of the short of it is, at some point you're going to start gambling with your life. It's not just about the money.
Yeah.
You know,
well, and it makes sense, especially if you're doing any sort of illegal betting, you know, loan sharks or things of that nature. I
mean, I had payday loans, title loans, you name it, I did it to keep in action, you know. And it, you know, I was sick. I was broken, and it wasn't until actually in 2006 with my second failed attempt. It really was from not gambling. I had already started recovery at that time. Mm-hmm. You know, I was like a lot of other people. I mean, I relapsed. I was a chronic relapser. And what was weird was when I did relapse, and, you know, when you start learning about the disease and then the tools and the skills that you learn, somewhere in the back of your conscious, it starts to kick in. It seeps in. So when I did relapse, oh my gosh, you think the guilt, embarrassment, and shame, what we do to ourselves, you know, beat up on ourselves, and that, you know, I would go through it all, you know, thinking. And another thing is, what was really hard for me was, how can this be? Or, you know, you see advertisements and, you know, the signs in there. It's for a few hours of fun and recreation and entertainment. So why is it so bad? You know? Mm-hmm. Well, I know now.
So you know? let me ask you this, Catherine. When you watch movies and TV shows and stuff like that, and there's people gambling, because obviously there's movies focused around it, TV shows, right, or, you know, does that kind of trigger something at all, or?
Not anymore. No, it doesn't bother me anymore. No. You know, we all have the options to choose which way we want to work. Okay. Right. When I first started the treatment program, and here's another ironic thing, the Oregon Lottery paid for both crisis center stays and my treatment, right?
Well, that's a good thing, though, but ironic.
It is. Yeah, God bless them, because I wouldn't be here with you right now. It doesn't bother me anymore. When, you know, I went to Gamblers Anonymous, you know, just started, they made us, they don't make you go, but they kind of like put it in your treatment plan, you know?
Sure, yeah.
So I went to a few, you know, for a bit. And first off, here's the problem with just and only a 12-step model. Trust me, I'm not downing the 12 steps. You know, I do my 12 steps still, and rework them, and you can go back and look and see where you need more work, you know, or where your strengths are, you know, and pat yourself on the back, you know. But it wasn't going to get me bet free. Kind of right away, I kind of surrendered to the part that it was going to be just for support, be with like-minded people. I wasn't alone. Other people are having, you know, the same problem with gambling like me, and that. So, you know, that really was the 12 steps as far as the Gamblers Anonymous. So my addiction was so bad that I needed any and everything I could get my hands on. I mean, I finished my treatment program, then moved into the outpatient treatment. I worked with a specialist for a year to help me, because I almost lost it when I was going through the whole court process and that of what my one bad faux pas. So I worked with him as I was going through court and doing my community service and all that. And if it wasn't for him, I think I probably would have relapsed. Seriously, you know. But I wasn't going to take the easy way out, you know. I know everybody in recovery at one point or another thinks, you know what, this is too damn hard. You know, why do I have to fix myself? Why am I the one that has to do all the changing? Well, at that point, I didn't know. It was for me. It wasn't for anybody else. It was for me. It's just like when I was using it, I was thinking, oh, I'm getting back at every single person that ever hurt me, my abusers and my, you know, when you've gone through trauma like that, sexual trauma like that, it really changes you.
Yes, it does.
And you know, something clicks inside you, and it takes a lot away from you. So it makes you even more hypersensitive as you're growing up, you know, into adulthood. I mean, somebody might make fun of me over something, and they've not walked in my shoes, so they don't know, you know, what my stuff is, and it would bother me, you know. Working with a therapist, you know, getting the counseling through the treatment program, and that I have been able to look back and see what the roots and the underlying issues were. And it was the trauma. My parents, you know, my mom was Italian, so she was very heavy-handed with discipline. Right. And I'm talking discipline that might walk over the line of not being, you know, CPS might have been called or something, you know, and that, you know, these kinds of things. And look, it's not excuses, and I'm not blaming them. When I wrote the book, of course, my side of the family thought it was just, you know, family. The other 30, 40 reviews told me people got it.
Sure.
My book is not about how to recover. It's about why and how, you know, I got entangled in gambling addiction and why. Yeah. And it's all from my past trauma.
5150 is power. The power to overcome. The power to persevere. The power to set your life on a course for success. When you're faced with the challenges life throws at you, you focus and do what is needed to go beyond what is required. So stand up, stand firm, believe, make it happen, and live through the madness, knocking doors down along the way. We are 5150.
Yeah.
And
as with any of our past guests, let's talk a little bit more, jumping into childhood a little bit. You told us your mom was second generation Italian immigrant, right?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dad was an Air Force man, which they tend to be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing I believe we're roughly the same age, so I know that age group, and our parents weren't really. They weren't really, and it's not an insult. It just wasn't as emotionally intelligent a generation because of coming from parents from, you know, the Great Depression or, you know, other
right
areas at that time, that it was, you know, I know my parents, it was hustle, 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 you know, and we had all this stuff, but that, even though I was loved, that didn't mean I wasn't subjected to a very similar trauma to yourself. You know, my parents were not heavy-handed, but did you find that was what subjugated you to, you know, trusting someone that eventually abused you sexually?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, most definitely. Yeah. Because I just started, you know, really starting to write and speak now more about the trauma, the sexual trauma. And it was a sibling. And then the second, and that lasted about 2 years until he went into the service. And then a family friend of ours, my parents, you know, it happened again for about, I don't know, a year. And then I had the trauma of he died. And then, so, you know, it was like, okay, because, you know, I had those conversations with my Lord and said, you know, oh my gosh, just take this away. Just let him die or whatever. You know what I mean? Kind of like off the cuff. And then it happened, and, you know, and he was only 20 and it's just like, oh my gosh, you know, I took that on myself thinking, oh, I made that happen. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. and
guilt,
that. So,
and all of a sudden you have guilt and shame when you're already feeling shameful as is.
right. The other thing that was really hard when I first got help, when the nightmares started and the I couldn't stuff the haunting pain anymore, you know, and that I did go to a psychiatrist, and I kind of freaked out because, you know, when I told him who it was, he told me, you know, in our evaluation, he said, you know, anything that's sexual or, you know, misconduct or whatever, it doesn't matter if it's statutory or not or whatever, we still have to like investigate it. Right. And I freaked out, you know, and so I called that person and told him and that, and you know what happened? It's the strangest thing. He the psychologist told me that usually anywhere from 80 to 90% when abuser abuses, they've been abused.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so and my brother, I called and told him, my husband was on the phone because I had just told him. He couldn't understand what was wrong with me, my husband. And so my brother, he apologized. And he told me, he said, you know, you don't understand. My nickname was Bubba. That's my nickname. Call me Bubba. You know, I was built like a football player, you know. So he said, Bub, he said, you don't understand. He said, do you remember, you know, Aunt Mary and Uncle Joe when we lived in New Jersey? And I said, yeah. We would go visit them. They lived in Brooklyn, in New York. And I said, yeah. He said, well, Uncle Joe molested me. And he said, that's where it came from. He said, I just thought it was normal. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And he said, I am so sorry, you know, and we have made amends a couple times. And that the other side of my family, you know, when I told my parents, you know, my mom was like, she's like, you know, right away, like you were saying, Jason, you know, our parents, my mom told us for years, we had you kids and did the best we could. You didn't come with no rule book, you know. And
I've heard that.
but they're very quick to be very, you know, aback. And when I first told them what happened, I think for my dad it clicked. My mother was like, I would have known if that was happening in my house and blah 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 blah, you know. And to me, not to believe me, she says, why would you be telling lies like this? And whatever, you know, and it's like, that's like being abused all over again and slapped across the face. Like, you're a liar. Yeah. And that. And so, you know what, when my dad passed last month, I have the comfort of knowing that if my parents are in heaven, which I hope they are, they now know the truth. Yeah. That's what gives me comfort today. They now finally know, you know, and it wasn't anything on, you know, about what they did. They did the best they could. You know, my other siblings, look, you know, when I first had to start taking meds for my mental health challenges, you know, they made fun of me. And why do you have to take those? Oh, look out, she's going to go postal. And, you know, and they're hurt. That's hurtful. Sure. And that they just never understood, and they never really, they don't embrace or grasp the concept that people can get better, you know, whether, you know, addiction. I never hurt any of my family with my addiction. I was 982 miles away. Mm-hmm. You know, they lived in Southern California. I never borrowed money. And if I did, I always paid my parents back. You know, it wasn't any of that. I just think they didn't want to acknowledge the mental health. That's what it was. Sure. And I can tell you, there are one or two of us that I think was on one of my mom or dad's side of the family, you know. But why do you make fun of me? Because I choose to be healthy and be managed and take care of myself.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of what we do in spreading and kind of bringing the stigma down, you know, not only with this podcast, of course, Carlos's book, Knockin' Doors Down, but his foundation, you know, with the They have a program for mental health, of course, along with the keeping kids off drugs and off the streets, as well as the autism program, is to really end that there are some of us, I
right.
have similarities with your story. I know for me, drinking life became so out of control that I thought that was my way to escape, and yet I could totally manage it. It was the thing that I can control when every aspect of my life was out of control and became unmanageable. And
right. And then you get to that point where you just say, it's true, only one of the slogans, eventually you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, being an addicted gambler and having to lie and hide and wait at the mailbox and finagling, robbing Peter to pay Paul in our checking account and our savings account. It was exhausting.
Oh, God, yes, it is.
I was so happy when the cat was out of the bag, seriously, because it really was. And, the one thing that really scared me the most was me dying of a heart attack or something and my husband finding everything. What would he have thought of me if I would have never finally got help and and started recovery and being able to be honest with him and tell him, he knew something was up. He just didn't know what, and that. So, I'm very, very blessed today to have him. He stuck through this with me. I took this man to hell and back in a handbasket. And I gave him every opportunity to walk out, and he never did. And that he even went to therapy and counseling with me through the program, through the treatment program, and that that speaks volumes. And I asked
I've
him.
Ever heard it. That is.
I'm telling you, yeah, really.
One day, Jason. One day we'll find that.
But I did.
And that is love, and what people don't understand.
Yes.
We get painted these pictures in stories and movies oftentimes, and know that that it's this romance and this magically being whisked away. No, it's things like that because and
today we know. Yeah, today we know that with our faith and loving one another, we can weather any storm, any.
Sure.
We can overcome any obstacle. He has accepted me for who I am. Our past does not define who we are. And he gets to see me every day because the work I do, my advocacy work, my writing, my, helping, I sponsor people, and I talk to them on the phone, on the computer. I mean, he gets to see that every day. And, and he tells me, he said, you know what? He'll look over at me and he'll say, I'm so proud of you, and then of course, the faucet and tears come on, he's just an amazing man. And I'm very blessed to have him in my life. We call him Big Tom. His name is Tom. And actually Randy gave him the name Big Tom. Randy Grimes. You need to have him next. You know that, right?
Yeah. Well, you'll have to connect us.
Yeah, I'll have you been introduced yet?
I don't recollect offhand.
Yeah, well, I'll get that done for you. Him and his wife, yeah, they do great work and that, and I just enjoy doing events or speaking or whatever. But how that came to be was I on the flip side, I began writing for a year with another former NFL pro. Won't name any names. And here's the problem with with advocacy work. Yeah, I worked for In Recovery magazine. They were out of Prescott here. Kim Welsh was the owner, and I worked for them for about 2.5 years. And I started to help Janet, the head editor. Started doing, some interviews. They usually did the front cover of the magazine and that. Well, she needed, we were getting a lot of people. I'm blessed. I was able to interview Christopher Kennedy Lawford, a couple other former NFL pros. Who else today? But that's how I met a lot of these people, and they end up supporting my recovery. You know, I'm considered a backward person. I love to network, you know, whether it's, you know, literary or recovery. I enjoy meeting people, as you know, on Twitter. I love to engage. I love to share awareness and that's how I meet a lot of them. And, you know, it's just, you know, again, addiction does not discriminate. So it doesn't matter who it tries to claim. It can be a former NFL pro. It could be a hockey player. It could be regular person like me. Every life is worth more than $1 million. You cannot replace life. Sure. And so for me, everything that I get to do every day, that's part of having a beautiful life, but a beautiful recovery lifestyle.
Absolutely.
I live my recovery every single day. And so recovery doesn't have to be hard. You know, if you get that inner work done, you tap into the underlying issues of why you turned to gambling and share how, you know, your hope, strength, and your experiences, you're going to help so many people. And as you said, shatter the stigma. This disease has so much stigma around it still. You know,
well, I think because it's a little more, not to downplay it, a little more fringe. It's not out there in the awareness. People go, oh, drugs, okay, makes sense. Alcohol, okay, makes sense. But, you know, not only is there's gambling addiction, sexual addiction, you know, and you look at there's really odd, more quote unquote fringe areas of things that people, eating disorders or
yep.
Else
yeah.
it is. There's so many different areas that aren't really brought to light as much as they should be, which leads me to ask, because I know for me, I was a binge drinker. I wasn't the guy that could wake up in the morning and drink all day. I couldn't do it. It was kind of more, you know, get my mind stopped and to sleep. What were your patterns with your addiction? Were you the person that just came in, bought $100 in scratchers and came back 2 days later? Or were you, oh my gosh, I got this ability to go and get these funds from this credit card, withdraw cash, and I'm going to disappear for 2 days of gambling? Or was it an amalgam of all those?
It was all of it. And especially toward the end, before I went to treatment, dude, I was gambling 4 or 5 times a day. I was going before work, on my lunch hour, after work. And it depends. If I was winning, I was only going because I thought I was going to win some more, you know, again. And if I lost, I would go back because I was trying to chase the money I lost.
Right.
You know,
chasing it.
Nobody ever does the simple math. You hear somebody, you know, bragging all the time and about winning and all, but they don't do the simple math. Okay. When someone tells me, oh yeah, I won $800 at the casino, I'm like, oh, great. How much did you have to play to win 800? Oh, I don't know, about $500. Well, you didn't win $800. Yeah. You won 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that, well, when you're an addicted gambler, you don't look at all that. It's like, I won 800. You know, and yeah, it's just, yeah, it's crazy. No, mine progressed. Once you cross that line into uncontrolled gambling, it's like a free-for-all. And yes, I have done the casino thing. Addicted to Dimes with my book. My publisher said my analogy, my diseased analogy was, at that time when I was gambling those years ago, why would I just play the Oregon sponsored machines and only win 600 when I can go up north 41 miles from my house and go to the Indian casino and win thousands?
Yeah.
And so that's where he came up with the, you know, I was only winning dimes. Then I graduated from that to going to the casino all the time. So it just depended, you know, and I'd be at the casino at 7 o'clock in the morning.
I always,
you know, once my husband left out the door, man, I was in that shower getting ready and I was up there.
That's crazy. I always found casinos oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's so like damn intimidating when you would go pull out money. I would go to, because I didn't go to casinos a lot. So when I did, I'm like, okay, I'm going to pull out like $40, you know what I mean? And then it would be, the options are 200, 400, 600 cash advance. And I'm just like, wait, what? Like,
right? I know.
But that's the interesting thing about varying addictions, Kat, is that for me, like when I would go, no matter what, and I've been gambling with friends that I think probably may have had a problem hitting that ATM over and over. Mine was, okay, I've come for $150 with $150. That is my entertainment. If it lasts me 5 minutes or it lasts me 2 days on this trip,
there you go. Yeah.
But 30 seconds. But someone like someone opposite of me, it's like that non-logical thing when it came to drinking. It's like, it's like, wait a minute, having a 30-pack of beer isn't normal over the weekend, So it's weird how the disease of addiction, it's like, yeah, gambling wouldn't hit me and drugs never hit me, but boy, that alcohol did. Whereas for you, it's like, it was.
Well, and gambling fit the bill for me because I was never really a hard alcohol person. I mean, come on now. I did my share of drinking in my early 20s. Dude, I can tell you some stories, going down to Hollywood and the Troubadour and the Whiskey Go-Go. Oh, I did it all. And I seen it all, but I never participated. Same with drugs. I have a heart problem. So I never did drugs. I did coke one time and thought my heart was going to beat out of my chest, and do the hoochie dance or something on my head, So I learned.
My heart was going to beat out of my chest too, but I kept doing it. That's where we differ.
Yeah. But, but now, today's world, it's so different, I mean, this stuff with, the painkillers and the fentanyl and, I try to educate myself on all different addictions because in order to be able to network and help others, we all need to know a little bit about, other addictions and that. And, I had friends in Southern California. Look, I knew, chronic weed, smokers and, would take, uppers, downers, Valium, whatever, and then mix it with alcohol. But you know what? You can't do that today. Yeah. Because especially if you're buying that shit off the street, it'll kill you. Oh, you know what I mean? I mean, I've had a couple friends that one of my friends, her dad passed away. He was got sucked into the pain clinic, management. Mm-hmm. And that, and he ran out of his, I don't know what it was, but he also took psych meds like me. Luckily, I'm down to just 2, finally. Excellent. But he went out on the street and bought a couple pain pills, and it was laced with fentanyl, and it killed him.
The Knockin' Doorz Down autobiography by Carlos Vieira. It takes you deep into his destructive past and how racing saved his life and opened the door to give back to the community. And 100% of the sales go directly to the Carlos Vieira Foundation, an organization committed to raising awareness for addiction, mental health, and autism. And for inspiration and motivation, tune in weekly to the podcast every Thursday for real-life episodes from celebrities and local heroes. Get Knockin' Doorz Down today at KDDmediacompany.com or Amazon.
Oh my gosh. Damn.
And so, you know what? I know that stuff is dangerous. Here's some things that people, they don't understand or would see, think about with gambling. Right now, 1 in 5 problem gamblers or addicted gamblers will try suicide. Yeah. Google it. It is now the #1 addiction claiming lives by suicide over drugs and alcohol.
Wow.
And we're almost to 3% of actually the world population problem gamblers. 3%. It doesn't sound like a lot. You dissect that down and that. I did a Facebook post one time on my my recovery page on my Facebook. And I just wanted to see right before the holidays, because I know that's one of the key times is the holidays, gamblers get a little bit more, anxiety and not enough money for gifts and this and that, I've been there. I did it. can't tell you how many Christmases I walked up and down aisles wishing I could buy something, and I couldn't because I gambled all the money away, you know. But I did a Facebook ad post, and I boosted it, and I did it for 4 days. I think I spent $30. It was like, I don't know, $3 or $4 a day. The statistics I got back, you know, the stats I got back was incredible. I think it was the dynamic. I always thought it would be older folks,
Sure.
because everybody's susceptible to this addiction. But, you know, your older folks, when they retire and that, you know, they got a lot of time on their hands. Mm-hmm. Well, with this pandemic this last year, online gambling has skyrocketed 41%.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not, yep, and that's not including sports betting, okay, venues.
Wow.
And that the demographic that was the highest was women, and it was the age between 45 and 60.
Really?
And I had over 1,400 clicks on that boosted ad. I am not kidding.
Wow.
Crazy, you know. So don't tell me it's not happening, because it is, you know. That it is touching. Now, what I try to advocate as well, you know, on pretty much at all platforms, though, social media platforms, you know, parents need to start including gambling, because, you know, it's reaching our teens, it's reaching our young college age, you know, kids, and that. What are your kids doing on the internet?
Yeah.
You know, what are they doing? They might be gambling and you don't even know it.
Well, think about it. You know, I remember me getting off to college for the first time. It was the first time I opened a credit card. I wasn't really taught any financial responsibility, how to, you know, do a ledger and do my checkbook and everything else. And it's, you know, it's even more now as a parent, we've got to talk about any and everything and educate them more. You know, I'm honest with my kids about my struggles. Their mom is honest with them about them. I'm honest with them about things that happened to me as a kid, just to educate them. And gambling is an area I would have never thought of, but you're right. In every single area, we got to arm our youth with knowledge, because it sounds corny and like it's one of those cliche PSA, you know, talk with your kids, but it's fucking true. You need to. It
is true. And you know what? It's just like, I always use porn addiction. You know, I had a friend of mine, her son was doing that. I said, well, do you know what he's doing on the internet? You know, I mean, you have to do that. You got to put things, you know, in place, parental or whatever. You know, it doesn't matter how old they are. If they can get into it, they're gonna get into it. You know, and he became having a problem with it. You know, it really blows me away. You know, with the online. Well, it doesn't blow me away. You know, with this pandemic, it's been hard for everybody. You know, it's turned recovery and, you know, maintaining recovery upside down. Pretty much everything's done now on the internet. You know, I miss that person-to-person contact, being able to walk into a meeting instead of, you know, online. But, you know, there's a lot of really good resources out there, you know, that can help if people do have a problem.
Yeah, can you share some of those with folks?
Yeah, well, one of the main ones that I do, the National Council on Problem Gambling. You can, you know, Google it, and they have resources, treatment options, pretty much everything. And I want to thank you both for having the audacity to talk about gambling addiction and recovery. Because March is Problem Gambling Awareness Month, all month. And so what I do with the National Council on Problem Gambling is I sign up my blog, my recovery blog, and I do 2 blogs per week, posts. And then I try to find a few like this, you know, podcast shows, or I've done 2 others. And that I'm going to use for the weekends during March. for my highlights, this a special, event post. But let's see, Stop Predatory Gambling. That is a really good place. They have, amazing resources also. And again, you can see how gambling, how they're advertising. Les Brunel does a lot in Washington, D.C. through his foundation, Stop Predatory Gambling. Because let's be honest, these casinos and, the state lotteries and all that, they get their licenses and all, but they have to, give back a percentage, like for treatment or whatever, but it's minimal. That'll be a whole nother show is for-profit gambling because, like the lottery, we see the commercial on TV. Oh, we make your parks beautiful. Yeah. We help with schools and whatever. Then why are Then why are our rural schools still struggling? Now, this is before pandemic hit, of course. Why are the sports programs not back in place? Where is the percentage that you're supposed to be paying back, to make our parks clean, and give these kids music and sports and whatever? It's a big lie, just so they can continue to sell the products, One thing that really got me upset in Oregon, they were doing, sending scratch tickets to the districts, the school districts. And then they would have a scratch off contest, right? The faculty. And you got kids around the table watching them. And of course, whatever they win, the lottery, pays them and it goes to the school, whether they need books or whatever. You're teaching kids how to gamble. Come on now.
Yeah. It's no different than the marketing, like a McDonald's with the Happy Meal. It's the introductory product,
Or baking with fruity flavors, attracting kids. Cotton candy, bubble gum.
There you go. It's just so it's touching teens, it's touching college kids, retired folks, and regular everyday people. And it's just it's in our communities, and it's just like you got to say eventually enough is enough. And that as far as, for the public, but, I'll tell you, I'm very loud, and I let the public know, they need to know a lot of this, and what's happening, but you got any other questions?
Well, what we always like to do is let the guests have the last word and words of encouragement, but I do want to jump into a fun thing that we do. You've listened to the podcast, our random questions. So, Mikey, you're up first.
All right, let's do this. What's your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
Same.
How could it not be?
How does an Italian not use that word? I grew up on that word. Sorry.
Good point there. Huh? Hey, give it a bye. Go fuck yourself. Huh? Any pet peeves?
Gosh, not really.
No.
You're the
only one vice. I do still smoke cigarettes, and that's the only vice I got left. Pet peeves. Yeah, when my husband doesn't pick up behind himself. You know what I mean? It just drives me crazy. Sure. I mean, we've been together 33 years now. You think he'd get it?
No, I can relate to that.
If you could travel anywhere in time, but you had to stay there, anywhere in time, but you had to stay there, where would it be and why?
I'd have to say it's got to be pre-addiction, 80s. The 80s, and we haven't touched on this yet because, we have wrestling in common, and the 80s were, and the 80s were fantastic when Hulk Hogan came back, and Randy and Ray. You had Randy Savage. You had what was the guy that wore the kilt?
Rowdy
Oh,
Piper.
you mean Rowdy Piper?
Yeah. Yep. My dad was a huge, old time gambling, old time wrestling fan. I actually met
Bruno.
Freddie Blassie. Who else? John Tolas. We used to go visit my other aunt in Los Angeles. And do you remember the old Olympic Auditorium?
Yeah.
We would go. She would buy tickets. It would be a double, I guess you call it double header. We'd go see in the afternoon the Los Angeles Thunderbirds roller derby. Do you remember that? Okay. And then they'd take an intermission, and then in the evening was wrestling. And we'd watch, and that. I seen The Rock, his father wrestle in the
Soul Man Rocky Johnson.
in the mid-70s. Let's see. I've touched. He don't know it, but I touched Hulk Hogan's bicep twice as he walked by. And I have to show. And let me show you. Here's my prized possession. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, the Hulk Hogan autograph there.
Heck yeah, and the one, awesome. Yep, isn't that awesome? And I have to thank Randy Grimes for buying it for me.
That's so cool.
We were having a bid off, and he lost, so he bought it for me. So I would have to say, the 80s, because it was awesome. Got to be the 80s, and I would love to stay there.
Yep, music, movies.
It was
television.
Awesome.
Everything.
Music,
I was creative in the 80s, so it was dope.
I just watched Pretty in Pink the other night. That was a cute movie. Yeah.
Was it me or you?
It's you.
Oh, okay. If you could have dinner with just one person, living or not, who would it be and why?
Wow, that's Oh gosh, let's go to the next question. Is that the last question? There's too many to choose. Okay.
I got one for
Well,
you.
just give us one, any fun one, because we have like a list of 20 people. So any fun person you can think of.
I would probably have to say Shirley MacLaine.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. I loved her work. I love her work. I love her movies. She's a free spirit. She is a free spirit. She seems like she'd be so much fun. And now that she's older, I would, you know what? I got to tell I love old people. I used to love waiting on old people at the bank. You know why? Because they already have the wisdom that we're now learning.
That's right.
They have lived those lessons, and I would love to pick her brain. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
Shirley MacLaine.
I do too. I love old people too, because even if they're mean as hell, it's like funny in a way. It's just like, it's okay. You could say that. You're 89. I'm not taking any offense to it.
Just cantankerous as hell and whatever.
And it's so different. If you're 89 and saying that, it's like, oh, plus you're a little hard. But if you're 29 and saying that, I'm going to smack you in the mouth.
Yeah, you're like,
but
you're just a dick.
All right, let's see here. If they were to make a movie about your life, who would you cast to play you? Which celebrity would you cast to play you?
Oh man, probably Kirstie Alley.
Awesome.
Kirstie Alley. Oh yeah, I like Kirstie Alley.
Yeah.
Catherine,
I'm a little voluptuous, and so is she. And she's got kind of the same sense of humor as I do.
Right.
Yeah, she is a spitfire. That's
so it works.
Sure.
It'll work.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, Miss Catherine, we like to leave the guests with the last words. So, words of encouragement and education, and a little bit more about yourself. As you said, you work with authors to get their bodies of work out there and advertise them and social media. So if you want to go ahead and let people know how they can get a hold of you that way, and then leave with words of encouragement, please.
I now reside in Phoenix, Arizona, And I have my recovery blog. I basically write, a lot too of my advocacy. I'm currently a contributing writer and columnist for Keys to Recovery newspaper.com. They're amazing, free publication for everybody. So you can go and subscribe. They'll mail you a copy. You can read it actually online or download it. My column's called Quit to Win. I've been writing for them now almost 3 years. And that I began writing for them, and they offered me my own column there right after I got done with In Recovery magazine. I have a recovery blog that I blog. It's called betfreerecoverynow.wordpress.com, and I have loads of resources listed there. I do guest articles. I write, my own journaling and share there. They can find me on Twitter. I have 2 Twitters, one for recovery and one for my books. I'm at Kit Kat Lyon. They can follow me there. And my recovery is love, which is LUV, and then _recovery. And that's my recovery Twitter. I am on LinkedIn. They can find me on Facebook under Catherine Townsend Lyon. And I have 3 pages there. So well, whichever one fits.
We'll throw we'll have all the links in the description too, so we'll have you send us all of them, so if people just want to connect on their favorite platform, we'll put it in the podcast description too.
Okay. And I guess I would really close with if anyone, a loved one, anyone has someone that they care about, and they think they have a gambling problem, look, there's no shame. There's no shame in reaching out for help. The disease, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's, like you said, Jason, whether it's drugs, gambling, porn, whatever. Do not hesitate. Don't waste another day being sick, broken, and lost. That's how I was, So today what I say is I try to reach out to those, the lost, the least, and the hopeless. Never give up hope, and there's no shame in admitting that you have a problem. And that's really and hope, today my Father is the Father above. I wouldn't be here today. He gave me my life purpose. He gave me the courage to reach out and start my recovery path. That's what I would love to end with. Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you, Miss Catherine.
Thank you, guys, and I'll see you on Twitter.